Fine. So this is the introductory session, the first session of Selenium, right? About the training. So let me give just 5 minutes in explaining that what exactly we do and what all will be taught in the course. Okay. Basically, in this Selenium course, we'll be covering Java, WebDriver frameworks, and Maven, Jenkins. Everything will be covered. Generally, people have a question that will you be covering some kind of a project? Okay, can you also provide some kind of a project? Look, project is basically a framework, end-to-end framework, and we will be learning how to develop a framework in the training. Okay, and will I get access to the videos? Yes, whatever sessions we will have, I'm going to record those sessions and you are going to have access to those recordings. Okay, right. And is Java required? Now, this is one of the major questions. Yes, Java is required. You cannot just run away from Java. Okay. It's like if you learn Java, you can learn Selenium and you can learn many other tools as well. Like you can use REST Assured, or if you want to learn JMeter, or tomorrow if you want to learn mobile automation with Appium. Okay. Then also this course is really helpful. All right. And some people ask me the question that, look, oh, first of all, I'm assuming that you know the basics. Okay, you know the basics of programming. That is what if statement is, what for loop is, all right, what functions are, what variables are. Fine. Okay. Now people ask me a question that I need help in my project. I want to clear interviews with this training. Look, yes, you can do that. You can work in your project, okay, or you can clear interviews. Fine. But remember, it takes just 10 days to learn this tool. Okay. In 10 days, you can just learn the basic commands, get ready, start just writing basic scripts. But to learn it to a professional level where you can sit down and confidently clear an interview or work on a project, if somebody gives you 100 test cases or 500 test cases to automate, right? To reach that level, you need at least 6 to 8 weeks of practice. Okay, the current course will be of nearly 25 to 30 hours, in which we will be giving 50% of the time to Java, Grid, TestNG, okay, WebDriver, and 50% of the time we will give to a framework, okay, which is a project. All right. So before I start, anybody is having any questions? Anybody with any questions? You can use the chat option on WebEx. You can move your mouse on the top. You can use your chat option, or you can um, unmute yourself and ask any question. Any questions from anyone? No questions? All right. So, okay, fine. So, out here, let us start. Fine. Look, the first thing is Java. All right. And how many of you are comfortable with Java? Amit, I have shared my screen. I guess you're missing out something. How many of you are comfortable with Java? No basics, not good in collections. Okay, all right. Look, how I will be going around in this training is that I will be covering Java, the basics of Java and all. Okay. and then I will be moving ahead. Look, I will tell you honestly, in Java, the primary concept of object-oriented programming is very critical. Without OOPS, you cannot just directly go and learn everything. You need to learn OOPS, and then you need to jump over to Selenium. Okay, if I visit the official website of Selenium, fine. If I go to Selenium hq.org, and if I visit here, and if you look at the first line says Selenium automates browsers, right? That it is a browser automation tool, right? It is just meant for browsers. First of all, it's not meant for desktop based applications. Fine. Secondly, if you go to this download section, then under this download section you will have Java written over here, and there will be a download link. Fine. And you can download the Java libraries, but there will be another link known as Java docs. And if you go out here, this is the official documentation of Selenium. Fine. To understand this documentation, you need to understand concepts of object-oriented programming, which I will be actually covering. Fine. Okay. Now, before I jump over to object-oriented programming, fine. Um, Let me just tell you basics like how to install Eclipse on the PC, right? Everyone, I think Eclipse is there with everyone. Okay, always people install it, but still, I'll just tell you. The first thing is that you will have to install JDK, which is preferably install, please, JDK 8. Don't take the latest one, right? It gives some issues. Install JDK 8, that is fine. All right, you can go to this link, the first link which comes up, and you can download it for your corresponding operating system. Fine, and install it. All right, fine. Now, after you install this, fine, you can download Eclipse. Eclipse, everybody knows it's an editor for Java language. Fine, you can go to this first link and simply download Eclipse from here. Install it. Right, when you start up Eclipse, it will give you a
Hello,
window something
hello.
like this. Yes.
See, sir, still I am not getting the content.
Then you are missing out on something. Maybe you have minimized the screen or something. Everybody else is able to see. You can close the meeting and join the meeting again.
Okay, thanks, thanks.
Okay, fine. So download Eclipse, right? And you can start it off. The first screen over here is uh, this is the workspace launcher. Fine. And over here you can give the path where you want to store your code and all. Okay, so we will keep this one workspace. Okay, April weekend 19, where we will be storing all the projects and all the codes and all everything. Fine, and you can launch this particular workspace. Hold on, let it launch. Just give it 1 minute. Fine. So hold on, hold on. Right. So look, before I actually start off with Selenium, right, and I talk about Java and all, let me just tell you briefly about WebDriver. Okay, meanwhile Eclipse will launch. I'll tell you what Selenium is actually. Fine. Look, Selenium is primarily divided into three components. Okay, one is known as WebDriver, one is known as IDE, and the third one is known as Grid. Okay. IDE is basically a tool which works on Mozilla or even on Chrome these days. Okay. Basically, it's primarily a record and run tool, which is not very successful these days, you can say. Okay, fine. And IDE is not used that much. Okay, right. It has no reports, nothing. You cannot generate any reports on IDE. Right. Okay. But what we do is that we work on WebDriver. WebDriver supports multiple browsers. A single script can work on different browsers. You have the capability to write dynamic code using multiple languages like Java, Python, okay, JavaScript, right? And you have the support in WebDriver for reporting and all everything. And that's what our goal is, to cover WebDriver first and learn WebDriver. Okay, grid is something which can execute the scripts in parallel. Okay, you will have one central machine and you can connect different machines to this per central machine, and the scripts can be executed parallelly among these machines. Okay, this is what grid does. Fine. But we will be studying grid not right now, but in some time, not immediately, because first we have to focus on WebDriver. Okay, fine. So to learn WebDriver, okay, basic thing is Java, right? And of course, the ultimate goal is to build a framework. Okay, what is the goal of this training? Right, the ultimate goal of this training is to help you build a framework. And what is a framework? Okay, it is simply something like this. That is, suppose you have got different test cases. All right, when you work practically, you have got different test cases, like you have got test case 1, test case 2, test case 3. Right, when you run these test cases serially or parallelly, you have to generate some reports. You have to then read the data from XLS file, right? And then you have to maybe integrate the system with Jenkins or Grid, right? If you talk about reports, then what kind of reports do we make? Okay, then if I talk about reports, we go for, say, the extent reports. These are full-fledged reports which has got logging. You can put the screenshots of errors inside it. Right. So to manage all these things, that is reading data from Excel file or from some other file, generating reports, integrating with Jenkins Grid and running the test cases, you need a centralized controller. This centralized controller can be TestNG, it can be JUnit, or it can be BDD, Cucumber, and all. Right. So you can use anything, and this is what is done in industry. Right. This centralized controller, it sorry, right. It reads the data from Excel file. It runs the test cases in certain order. Okay. And then it helps you to generate reports as well, connect with Jenkins. So this is an overview of framework. And that's what I'm going to teach you in this training, and that's the objective. If you talk about WebDriver, then WebDriver is only in this red box. Selenium WebDriver. Okay, it will just help you build the test cases. But to generate reports and for other things, you need other entities as well. Okay. Right. If you have any questions, you can move your mouse on the top, unmute yourself, ask a question, or you can use the chat option. Okay. Right. Fine. Now, I'm resuming the recording. Right. Now, so if you start off, we'll start off with WebDriver first. Fine. This is Eclipse, which just got launched. Fine. This is the welcome screen. You can close it. Okay. Now, before I start, right, let me just teach you some basic things, right? I'll create a new other and I'll create a new project, right? Or you can select under Java, you can select Java project. Fine. I'll call it as Java Basics. Fine. Now I have a small course curriculum ready with me, which is distributed day by day. We will also follow this. Okay, fine. Now this day one and day two means one class for weekend batch. We'll cover one class in we'll cover 2 days in one class in the weekend batch. Fine. Now, hold on, just a minute. Yeah, so this is the basics of Java. Fine. And I will create, I'll create a new class known as basics or yeah, basics underscore Java, right? Okay. Now, I am assuming in this training, you have got the basic knowledge that what integers are, what strings are, and all everything. If I declare int I equals to 100 or string s equals to hello there. So I'm assuming that you know basic things. You know what if statement is that, what for loop is, what functions are, basic things. Okay. Now, what is this static over here? I will cover that in some time. It's a part of object-oriented programming. Main is the basic function from which everything starts. Right. Now, I will jump over to a very important concept. Right. If I print something in Java, say I am printing, hold on, system.out.println. So this is the command to print something in Java. I'll just print hello. And if I run this program, this is the run button on the top left side. So it will print hello. Most of you must be knowing this, right? If I right click on the project, I will get variety of options, right? One of the options is properties. Okay, if you go to the properties option, you will get the path of the project on your hard drive. You can click on this icon over here and that particular drive will open up. Okay, that location will open up. Fine. And this is the Java Basics project. Okay. If you open this, this is the source folder. Fine. Under the source folder, this is basics underscore java.java file which we just created. Now every Java file is converted to a class file, and we store the class file inside the bin directory. Okay. This class file is like an executable file. Okay. Now whenever you make a new Java program, okay, I will just create a new class known as Java Basics 2 in with the main function, right? And if I run this, if I print system.out.println hello there again, and if I run this code, then it will print hello there again. Fine. And if you look at the bin directory, right? In the bin directory, you will have Java Basics 2.class file generated. Now, what is a class file? All right, what is a class file? Every Java file, if there are multiple Java files in a project, is converted into a class file. Class file is like an executable file. Okay, you can execute it from command prompt as well. every Java file is converted into a single file known as a class file. And every class file can be merged together. If suppose client wants that, he says you that he wants the class files. So what you do is that you pack all the class files into a single file known as a jar file. Jar file is like combination of many class files. Okay. For example, if you look at this project, JRE system library in this project is nothing but Java which is installed in your system. Okay. If you expand this, you will get many jar files. Okay, every jar file can be further expanded and you can see every jar file will have many classes which we can use. These are pre-built functionalities, right? For example, if I just type over here system.out.println new date, then hold on, you'll have to import it, right? If I just write this, this will print the current date, time zone, time, everything. I never had to, do any hard work or something. All right. It automatically printed the date. This is because the date class is lying somewhere inside these jars. Okay, and you have used it. The pre-built functionality is there. The class file is there somewhere inside these jars. Okay, and this is what we do in Selenium. The reason I'm giving you this example is that in Selenium, everything is inbuilt. Everything is inbuilt. You don't have to invent anything. All the commands are inbuilt. Everything is inbuilt, right? The only thing is that you should be aware of object-oriented programming, which I'm going to focus on right now. Without teaching you object-oriented programming, I just cannot move ahead. Some of you might be aware of OOPS. Some of you might have 50% knowledge on OOPS. But yes, it is really essential. Okay, so the first thing is that you need to understand OOPS. All right, if you talk about a jar file, I told you jar file is is a collection of multiple class files. All right. If you talk about Selenium, then if you visit the Selenium website and if I go to seleniumhq.org and if I go to the download section, then I can download Selenium jars from here. These Selenium guys also, they distribute their jars. All right, you can download the zip file, open it, right, and you will find jars of Selenium. These jars, they contain the internal functionality of Selenium, which can only be understood if you know object-oriented programming. Fine. This is the version, right? If you download it, extract it, you will find one jar file known as client combined jar. Other is the sources jar. This jar is not required. This contains the source code of Selenium. Selenium is open source. Anybody can see the source code. So this is just having source code, so it's not required. This is the main jar file of Selenium. There is no exe for Selenium that you can install it by just running the exe. Okay, this is the lib section. Under the lib section, you will have other jars as well. Fine. So these 5 jars along with this particular main jar file are required in Selenium. And if you go to your project, you right click on the project, you will see the properties option. You go to the properties option and go to Java build path, the fourth option from top. You will have different tabs over here. Go to the libraries tab, and from libraries tab, you can import these jars into the project. When you import these jars into the project, your project becomes Selenium enabled. Okay, you can click on add external jars, select the jars. All right, fine, and click on apply on close, and you will see a reference library section generated. Under that, you will have all the jars. Now your project is Selenium enabled. You can use Selenium commands. All right. If you don't see this section reference libraries, then you can click on this small icon open perspective. Okay. You click on it and you click on Java and open Java perspective inside Eclipse. Fine. Then you will see this option. Right. Now, to understand the functionalities in these jars, right, you need to know OOPS, object-oriented programming, and that's what I'm focusing on again and again. So let's start with OOPS. Fine, basic object creation. I'll create a new class known as, say, uh, a very, very simple class known as a car class. Okay, now class can have two types of members. One type of member is non-static and other is static. So I'm going to talk about both these things. What non-static is, what static is, and how to use it in Selenium. Fine. Now, what are the properties of a car class? Okay, you can have the name, you can have the price. Fine. Suppose these are the two properties of the car class. Okay, and I will create a new class known as test car. Fine. And out here, I'm going to do something known as create object of car class. How do you create object? New car. Just like this. You can create as many objects as you want. Right, sorry. You can create as many objects as you want. Fine. Now what happens when you create the object of the car class? When you create the object of the car class in the memory, a location is allocated. Okay, and you have the properties in that location. These are the two properties of the car class, name and price. Fine. So you will have three objects over here. Every object will have the properties name and price. Name and price. Every object will have these two properties. Okay, but you cannot access these objects. To access these objects, you need to have something known as object reference. Okay, you create an object and you assign it a reference like car C1 equals to new car and car C2 equals to new car and car equals to. So C1, C2 and C3 are the three objects of the car class. Fine. Not these are not objects actually, these are object references. Objects are different and object references are different. Okay, this is the object. When you write new car, then object is created. C1 is a reference. Okay, C1 can point towards the object. Okay, C1 is a reference, C2 is a reference, C3 is a reference. All three of them, C1, C2, and C3, will point towards the object, the respective object. And with C1, C2, and C3, you can control the state of those objects. Okay, you can write, say, C1 dot name. Hold on, when you write C1 dot, you will get all the properties. Okay, you can say name is car A and C1 dot, and you will get the price property as well. Price is 100. So what will happen in the memory? Okay, in the memory, this name will become A and price will become 100 for this particular object, not for the other object. You can initialize the other objects separately. Okay, similarly, C3 dot name is 300 and C3 dot price is, sorry, name is C, and so this is what an object looks like. Okay, object is there in the memory, but object reference can access the object. So this becomes my B object with price 200 and C card C with price 300. Okay, with C1, C2, C3, you can access the properties of this object, also change the values. Right, you can print system.out.println C1.name, C2.name, and C3.name. You can print all the names, and when you run it, it will print ABC. All right, fine. Now, the difference comes up that if I write C1 equals to C3, now what does this line do? What will it do? It will make C1 point, it will remove C1 from here, and C1 will point towards same location where C3 was pointing. Okay, C1 will point towards the same location where C3 was pointing. All right. So C1 and C3 will point towards the same object. Both will access the object. Any one of them can change the state of the object. I can print over here system.out.println C1.name, C2.name, and C3.name. And when you run this, second time it will print CBC because C1 and C2 both are pointing to, sorry, C1 and C3 are both are pointing towards the same object. Okay, right. If any one of the references changes the state of the object, all right, fine. If I write, say, C1 dot price is 1000. Okay, I'll just put a demarcation line and print C1, C2, C3. And if I run this code, it will print CBC. Fine. So, which means it's printing the updated value. Hold on, sorry, it should be price. I'm sorry. Or I'll update the name over here. I'm really sorry. I'll update the name to Z. And if I run this code, see it prints Z, B, and Z. Fine. So C1 dot name is Z, C2 dot name is same, and C3 dot name also becomes Z. C1 changed the state of the object, and C1 and C3 got the latest value out of it. Okay, right. This is what objects are. This is what objects do. They, it's kind of virtualization. Fine, every object will have its own space in the memory, its own set of variables. If I have a function, if I have a function like public void print details, fine. Then what will happen is that in every object, I will have this particular function, print details. In every object, I will have the print details function. Okay, right. In this, I will just write that system.out.println name followed by the price. And if I run the test car function, right, it will run normally right now. Over here, if I write c1 dot print details, then c1 is calling the print details function. Okay, in print details function, I am printing the name and the price. So it will print the name and price of C1. All right, so when you run this code, you see that Z300. Okay, similarly, C2 and C3 can also call the respective print details and they will print the respective name and prices. Okay, CC2 is still at B. Okay, right. So these variables over here, this variable is known as non-static variable. This is also non-static. Other global variable. Global variable means it is outside the function. Okay, this is known as a non-static function. All right. Now there are two things. One is non-static stuff in the class. Other is the static stuff. What do you mean by static stuff? If I write over here int, say wheels. Okay. Now every car has got four wheels. If I want to initialize wheels for every object, I will have to write c1 dot wheel because every object will have the wheel property. I will have to write c2 dot wheel, c3 dot wheel. All right. Every object will have the property wheels inside it. Okay. So what we do is that we don't do like this because the value of all the objects is same 4. So we make this as static. When you make it static, it no longer remains in the object. Okay, it will not remain here. Wheel will move somewhere over here in the memory, which is a common location for all the objects. Okay, right. And we can access this directly with the name of the class. You can write over here car dot wheels are 4. Static stuff is not the part of the object. You don't need to create object to access it. You can directly call it with the name of the class. Right. Okay, since it's not the part of the object, so you can and over here you see it's giving you a yellow warning. Yellow warning means that although it is written this line, but it's the warning that this is static. It should not be accessed with the object. It can only be accessed. The best way to access it is with the class name. Okay, right. Similarly, if you have a function, sometimes you have static function. I'll name it any. If a class has got a static function, this is a static function. Then you can directly call it with the name of the class. You can write car dot abc. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions. All right, fine. Now, before I move ahead, I taught you oops, I taught you few jars and what static is and all. There is one small thing which I want to talk about. Okay, I want to talk about debugging. That is, how do I run this program line by line? It is a little out of context, which I'm going right now, but it is something which will help you when you actually make bigger programs. It will make your life easy at that time when you are in an error or something. You can run every program line by line. This is known as debugging. Suppose if I double click in front of this line, you have to double click in this section, not in the white section, but on the left side over here. You will see something known as a something like blue dot over here. This is known as a debug point. And then you can click on this small insect on the top and run this program. So this will run and stop on this particular line. You will see a yellow mark, oh, sorry, a green mark. That means the program is executing, but it is stopped on this line. Okay, you can close this outline section, it's not needed. But yes, this variables section is needed. Sometimes people close this variables section by mistake. Okay, you can get it back with window, show view, and you can select other variables. If you don't see variables over here, you can go to other and you can select debug and you will get variables over here. Fine. Okay. So over here you can see the state of all your objects and the variables. Now if I hit F6, okay, the keyword key is F6, F6 of the keyboard, this particular line will exit and the object reference C will be visible over here of the car class. If you expand it, you will be seeing two properties in C1, which is name, which is null, and price, which is 0. Okay, you can also move your mouse over C1 and you will see that C1 has got two properties right now. Name is null, price is 0. Now I'm going to initialize the name, which is A. If I hit F6 of the keyboard again, and if I move my mouse over C1 now, you will see that name is A, but the price is 0. Okay, so you can run the program line by line, initializing all the variables. You can move your mouse over the variables, check their values, or you can use the variables section over here. You will be able to see the values. This is important because when you are writing bigger scripts and your script somehow is not working, you can actually stop it in between and make it work. Okay, you can debug the program, you can run it line by line. Okay, if you hit F8 of the keyboard, the script will run normally and it will stop. F8 is for the normal run. F6 is for running line by line. Okay, right. So there are two keys. One is F6 and one is F8. There is something known as F5 as well, which I will take a little later. F6 is for line by line, F8 is normal. You can put multiple breakpoints. I've put a breakpoint over here and I can put a breakpoint over here as well. You can run it in the debug mode. The control will stop on the first breakpoint. You can run it line by line, or you can hit F8. When you hit F8, the control will stop on the next breakpoint. Okay, right. So you can double click again and remove the breakpoints, right? You can terminate your program in between by clicking on this red terminate button, right? If you don't see it, then you will be able to see it over here under console. And these are small things. Okay, maybe you are knowing it, but it is really important to know them. Okay, so this is debug perspective. The window, the look and feel of the window is entirely different from what we used to have earlier. Okay, the default window. So what I would recommend is you can click on this icon and switch to Java perspective. This is known as perspective. There are different perspectives in Eclipse. Generally, we work in Java or debug perspective when Selenium is used. You can switch to Java perspective and you will see regular window. Right, you can double click on this pane over here and your restored Eclipse will come up. Sometimes people close this package explorer by mistake. They close it and they don't know how to get it back. Okay, these are small things. I'm just telling you on the day one so that if you're stuck in these issues, you don't lose the confidence at that point, right? So you go to window and you go to show view and you can go to other and under Java, you will be able to see Package Explorer and you can bring it back. Fine. Another important thing in Eclipse, you will be seeing these two yellow lines. These yellow lines are link with editor, right? Sometimes what happens is that there are too many Java files, like 50 Java files, and you really don't know the file which is currently opened right now, where it is actually lying under the project. You got my point, right? My project is minimized. If I maximize it, if I go to the source folder, right now I can see 4 files and 4 files are there. But what if I have 50 files? Okay, this file which is open right now, I want to find it in the project. Okay, so you click on this icon link with editor. This way, whichever file you are working on will be highlighted in the left section. Right now I'm like working on test car. If I select car, then car class will get highlighted. Okay, so this link with editor helps you in that ways. All right, fine. Uh, Now this was something like basics of debugging and something about Eclipse. So this is about static and non-static as well. And whole story in Selenium will revolve around this thing. Static and non-static. You can create objects of static classes and access the non-static variables. Fine. And if you look at the documentation now, if you look at the documentation of Selenium, if you go to the Java doc link out here, these are all the classes. Okay, you don't need to remember all of them. Even I don't remember. We'll refer the documentation. Fine. If you go over here, there will be something written as WebDriver. Okay, these are, click on that. These are all the driver classes in Selenium. Okay, create objects of these classes and then you work with them, right? For example, there is a class known as Chrome driver. As name suggests, it is for working with Chrome. Edge driver is for Edge. Firefox driver is for Firefox. Okay, name as per the name. Remote web driver is for actually Selenium Grid. Okay, Selenium Grid is a remote web driver, right? Event firing driver, I will tell you in some time, like not right now. Okay, it's got some complex gestures. Safari driver is obviously for Safari. Fine. Now, uh, out here, We will study about these drivers now, how you can create the object of these driver classes and how you can work with them. Okay, okay, fine. So let us talk about different drivers in Selenium. Fine.